Did I skip someone? Sukhjap, how did I skip you? But I got Nika and I got Manraj. Sukhjap, what's the what can you do in the kitchen?
Basically anything with instruction is right in front of me.
But except for meat. Okay, fair enough. Get this out if you haven't already. Let's take a look at it. What do you get when you cross an absent-minded elephant with a small flea? Hands up. Did you get it? It's pronounced forget-me-nat, like G-N-A-T. A gnat, G-N-A-T, is another name for a small flea. So an absent-minded elephant with a small flea is a forget-me-nat. So it's not as funny as some of the other ones I've given you.
Yeah.
What do you get when you cross a shark with a snowball? I like this one more. Gerline? Frostbite. B-I-T-E. I like it because it's a shark and a snowball. It's frostbite, which is actually really not, it's the implication there is that, sharks are going to bite you.
Yeah.
And that's not always true. Give sharks a bad rap. I am pro shark. Questions about any of these? Danny?
Can you do tea? Because I figured it out eventually. But
Let's take a look at T. Okay, so the question is, what is, the first thing we're going to do is get rid of those denominators. So what is the smallest common denominator? 6, 8, and 12. 24. So we're going to multiply each term by 24. So we're going to multiply this guy. I'm going to put the brackets around the 3 minus x to start. And I'm going to deal with that thing as one term. I'm going to put the brackets here, and I'm going to deal with that thing as one term. Because again, the fraction includes that whole thing in the numerator. So we're multiplying the fractional term, by 24. Yes, Danny?
so when it says 5x, it's 5 times x?
Yes, that is what that means.
Do we need to apply
You're just multiplying it. No, you're just multiplying it to the whole term.
to the whole term?
So this is multiplying it to the term.
That's what I noticed.
So then what we're going to do is, because we can multiply and divide in any order, we're going to do the 24 that we're multiplying by, we're going to divide it by the denominator. The 24 divided by 6 is 4. So the 6 is gone. That leaves me with 4. I'm going to do it for all of these right away. 8, or 24 divided by 8 rather, is 3. So the 8's gone, and that becomes multiplication by 3. And then 24 divided by 12 is? So then the 12 is gone, and this becomes multiplication by 2. So then I have 4 times 5x, which is? And now I've got negative 3 times 3 minus x. I'm just going to write it like this first. Hold on. I'm just going to make sure I write it all step by step. And then 2 bracket 4x plus 3. And then I heard you guys talk, and you said negative 9 plus 3x, good. Because you have to include the sign that's in front of the coefficient when you distribute it. And that's going to equal what? Correct, 8x plus 6. Now I want to group, because that makes our life a little easier. I've got a 20x here, and I've got a plus 3x here. So this is going to be 23x minus 9 equals 8x plus 6. Now if I subtract, what am I going to do? Sorry? Or you want me to add the 9 over? So I'm going to add 9 on both sides. Is that the only thing? Or should I do, is there something else you want me to do in the same step? And how are we going to do that? To get rid of it here, I'm going to subtract by 8x. Subtract by 8x. 23x minus 8x is? Sorry? 15x. The negative 9 plus 9, that's going to cancel out. That's going to equal the 8x minus 8x. That's 0. And then the 6 plus 9 is 15. My last step is to divide both sides by 15. X equals 1. Doesn't matter what the answer is, yeah? It's not like it's more rewarding if the number's bigger. Yeah. I once did it to my students, and they had the same reaction you did. They were mad. I made up a question. So the math that you're going to do for you guys, if you do IB, it'll probably show up in grade 11. But they did a whole bunch of trig identities, which doesn't necessarily mean anything to you. But they are, so what trig identities are they are expressions that are equivalent to other expressions. So you just kind of manipulate, oh, this one's equal to this one, so you substitute it in. And then you just keep massaging this thing until it condenses down into a nice result. And I started on one end of the whiteboard, and it was a double whiteboard like this, and I wrote a single question that went from left to right in my normal writing size, and they spent all of, because they were getting ready for a test, so they did it, and the final answer was 0. It took them 40 minutes to come up with 0. And so they were very angry that they spent the entire lunchtime literally to get nothing. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the result is. The point is that you're able to get it, whatever the result is. Were there any other questions about any of the homework I gave you? Going once.
We just have this, right?
You bet. Sold. It was just double cross. Because we're going to go back and we're going to talk about decimals. Not overly difficult. You've got a couple options here. We want to solve equations with fractions and decimals. Again, this is, like I said, it's not difficult. But it's just something, for whatever reason, I show you guys something new and you forget everything you thought you knew. So, you have 3 options when dealing with fraction. Sorry, we have 3 options when dealing with decimals. What is one option when you have a decimal or a set of decimals in the expression? Danny. You could convert them to fractions. As soon as you convert them to fractions, then you do exactly what I gave you before. You multiply them by the lowest common denominator, get rid of the denominators, and away you go. Number 2, what else could you do? Instead of converting to fractions, give you a hint. We did something like this before when we were dividing decimals way back in chapter 1. Carolyn. Sorry? Yes. Shift the decimal to make integers. That is what we're going to look at doing now. There's another option. One more option. Oh, come on. Oh, that's really hard to look at. Come on, figure it out. Okay, there we go. The last option is you just do the math with the numbers that you're given. And especially if I let you have a calculator, there's no issue here. But if you don't have a calculator and you're like, just decimals, I just don't like decimals. To eliminate, one of the techniques I want to show you here, ultimately if I give you a calculator and I say you can use it, I don't care which technique you use. You can convert it to a fraction, then that's cool. You can do the math with the way the question's written, because all I would have to do here is add 0.4 to both sides and then divide by 1.2. We see this, yes? Alternatively, though, if I wanted to get rid of all the decimals, what could I do? Carolyn? Equals 20. So what did you do to do that?
I just shifted the decimal on all, like with all terms.
So there is what mathematical operation are you doing in order to allow you to shift the decimals? You're shortcutting something. You're multiplying by the appropriate power of 10. Absolutely. So in the first question, Carolyn wanted to move the decimal once here and here. So to move the decimal once, what power of 10 are you going to multiply by? Let's multiply by 10. And I'm going to, whatever I do to one term, I got to do to all the terms. So it's going to be 12x minus 4 equals 20. And that becomes a relatively easy question you can do, no problem. What's my next step going to be? Adding 4 to both sides. So it's going to give me 12x equals 24. And then my last step is going to be to do what? Divide by 12, divide by 12, x equals 2. Cool. What would be the appropriate power of 10 for number 2? It would be 100. Why? Because there's 2 decimal places we want to move. So I have to multiply every term, both sides, by the same power of 10. So that's going to give me 314 m plus 200 equals 1,299. And now we just go from there. That's going to give me, I'm going to subtract by 200 on both sides. That's going to be 314 m equals 1,099. Divide by 314 on both sides. Sorry? Oh, you're telling me the answer. And if I give you a calculator, you can just shove that in, and like Carolyn said, that's going to be 3.5. If I don't give you a calculator, it's going to be real hard to see how that thing breaks down. This thing can be simplified to 7 over 2, believe it or not. But that's going to be real gross to see unless I let you use a calculator. And I will. I just want you to show me. I want you to use your calculator for basic arithmetic. That's too complicated to do. I want to see all of the other steps. And I know in your quiz yesterday, perhaps you didn't do that, but I'm going to tell you now. If I don't see the steps on a test or a quiz, I'm not going to give you the marks for the work. Because yes, your calculator can do a lot of these things on its own. Doesn't need you. Okay, so do these two real quick. Let me know what you get. P equals something and Z equals something. Give it a shot. This was all of the time I needed for yesterday. If I had this much more time yesterday, we would have been done this as well, but you would have had a lot more homework. So, you know, whatever, it's a trade-off. Solve these two real quick for me. I'm going to get a beverage from the fountain, and when I get back, we'll go over this. That's how much time you have. Which one holds more water? Probably this one. Okay, what do we get? Put on both, yes? For number 1, that should not be a very long decimal.
Wait, is it 17?
What did you multiply by? Should be 70.
Because that was like the first time. I did 17.
Carolyn, you have a question or you have the answers? Okay, hold on. Jay, you finished? Harwin, you're done both? You are? Harwin, what'd you get for number 1? It's a little high. It's high. For the first one, what'd you get? Same thing you got? Yeah. Okay, the value you're looking for number 1 as a fraction is 26 over 5, or 5.2. I'm going to do number 1 2 different ways. So take a look up here. Let's do number 1. For those of you who shifted the decimal to make them all integers, what did we multiply everything by? 100. Okay? So if you multiplied by 100, 2.3 times 100 is? So that's going to be 230p minus, and then 1.47 is going to be? 147 is going to equal 685 plus 70p. So then what did we do next? Okay, we subtracted 70p from both sides. So that's going to give us 160p. And then we added 147, I heard. So 160p is going to equal, what is it, 832? Divide by 160, divide by 160. I'm going to get p equals, that's 832 over 160. I can start immediately dividing by things to reduce this fraction. 832 and 116 are both divisible by 2. 160 divided by 2 is 80. Because 16 divided by 2 is 8, so 160 divided by 2 has got to be 80. 832, this is a nice one to do. 800 divided by 2 is 400, and 32 divided by 2 is 16. So that's, I can just go straight to 416. Okay, I can divide each of those by. If you don't see 4, you can divide them each by 2 because they're both even. But if you want to divide by 4, 416 divided by 4, that's a nice easy one because 400 divided by 4 is 100. and 60 divided by 4 is 4. So 416 divided by 4 is going to be 104. 80 divided by 4 is 20, and then I can divide each of these by 4 again. Or if I wanted to make my life a little bit nicer, I could divide them both by 2. Because that's going to be 104 divided by 2 is 52 over 10. And then anything divided by 10, we can just divide by 10 and move the decimal in. So that's going to give me my 5.2. Or this you can reduce down, divide them both by 5. No. No, divide them both by 2. That's the last step. Give me 26 over 5. The other way to do this, and I set it up here, you could just do the math with the values that you're given. So, what would that look like? If this is my question, if I'm just going to do the math using the techniques that I've given you, what are we going to do first? Yeah, I could do 0.7 p. I could just jump straight into this. 2.3 minus 0.7, that's going to be 1.6 p. Minus 1.47 equals 6.85. Like, the technique is the same. Except I'm just dealing with these decimal numbers instead. Then I'm going to add 1.47 to both sides, and especially if I let you use a calculator. You're going to get 1.6p equals 8.32. Divide by 1.6, divide by 1.6, and you're going to get p equals 5.2. Like, if I let you use a calculator, there's no reason why you couldn't do this just exactly as it's written. If I don't let you use a calculator, if you end up going this route, then there's going to be long division and it's going to be gross. And that's where you're going to want to do this. So if I gave you a no calculator question section on a test, that could be fun. Did we find an answer for number 2? Number 2 is gross. I want the exact answer. Negative. Which is also negative 89 over 42. It's not 2.12. It's not exactly 2.12. 89 over 42. Again, this just keeps going. At some point, you're going to round this. Is that the exact answer? No. If I ask you for the exact answer, your calculator is not going to help you here. You've got to leave it for me as a fraction. This is what you're looking for here. Use these techniques to get me the exact answer. Okay, so we're going to practice. Flip ahead. How do I get from here to here? This is, I multiply every term here by, in this case, it would be 1,000. Some calculators can't do that. You don't. Like, if you don't. In some cases, you can't. Unless you have all of the decimal places, you can't do it. Like, you don't know, like, if with the value I had in my calculator here, I don't know if it ends there or if it keeps going. So because my calculator only gave me 7 decimal places, I might not be able to go any, like, I can't convert that from a decimal to a fraction. Because the only way to truly convert, like, if you don't know, if you're going to convert, like, this number, let's just give you a value here. If this is the number it gives you and you want to know what that is as a fraction, you have to put it over top of, it's going to be this part here, the 6978, over 10,000. Because you have two holes, and 6,978 over 10,000. Because that's the tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths place. You're going to convert this into a massive decimal, or a massive fraction over whatever this place is. That's the 10,000ths place. And then you have to reduce the fraction. So it's going to be gross. It's way more work to do that than just to do it the way, using one of these other techniques up here at the beginning. If I don't give you a calculator, or don't let you use your calculator, it doesn't go well for you. Okay, so here's what I want you to try. What are you guys doing? Put your phones away. There's a lot of phone usage going on back there, and normally I don't care, but it's getting ridiculous. I see it a lot. I want you guys to jump to, here's what I'm going to assign. We're not going to start at the beginning, because the beginning is lame. We've already done the beginning. Well, it's not lame. If you need extra practice, you can do the beginning. But it's not what we're doing now. I want you guys to take a little bit of a look at, do I want you to do more fraction ones? Do you need more fraction practice? You didn't get it at all. Okay, so then starting at number 12, I want you to do evens. Yeah. Starting at number 12, we're going to do evens. Oh, okay, I guess on this page we'll do evens. Flip the page over, and I'm going to give you a different set of questions. I want you to do, this is where it's going to get a little bit weird. 22, 23 is good, 24, oh yeah, we got to do 25 and 26, 27 and 29. So you're doing 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 29. I am not going to give you more. And the answers are on the back of the next page. I could give you another, like 31's great, but it's gross. The answers are back here. I'm going to give you some time to work on this and your market set giver. We may. If you guys use this time well, maybe not. But if you're just screwing around, then I might just say, let's do another lesson.